All right, by now you've went online. You know what's going on. You've discussed this with your friends, your families, your loved ones. You want to know what the next step is. And no, I'm not talking about Joe Biden dropping out of the presidential race. I'm talking about the Mariners outright putting Ty France on waivers. What does all that mean? Well, that means we had another show planned for tonight, but we are going to pivot as we do when there are breaking news stories, and this would qualify as that. So we're going to focus a bit on the Ty France. What does it mean? What are the moves besides Locklear being recalled that we can possibly see? Also, this has been a collective refusing to hit team. So who might be next on this list that we could possibly see get released or traded? We are going to acknowledge what happened here in the Astros series. We are definitely going to acknowledge the injury and talk a little bit about where we're at with that, with the injury to Julio Rodriguez. Also, we got the Anaheim Angels coming into town this week. And Hannah, my co-host, has two guys on that roster that he finds really interesting, that could possibly be a realistic fit for the Seattle Mariners. We're going to talk about all that right here on the live episode of the Rye Bread and Mustard, a Mariners podcast. That's right, that Down on the Docks, on the other side of the tracks, 5-star dive bar podcast. Right after this.
Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdom.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdom.
All right, Hanno, we took the show that we had and we fucking balled it up and we chucked it out the goddamn window because we're shocked, actually, that they made this move, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I was totally shocked by it. I mean, it's the right move, but definitely shocked by it.
Yeah, so if you just missed the intro there, because we're doing this live, we're jumping right in here with the Ty France news. Yes, performance-wise, if you just were looking at a sheet, I would say going back to 2 years ago right now, you'd go, okay, if you but when you think about what Ty France has, meant in that clubhouse, how much we depended on him, in 2021, 2022, but now we are in 2024. Last year, obviously, had a rough year, took responsibility for it, went to Driveline with JP. We haven't heard a lot about Driveline anymore. I wonder if Driveline sent a cease and desist on them talking about their company, because they wouldn't be the two best examples of Driveline, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, even though no matter where you go in a place like Driveline, it's still on the player and the hitter to take in what they say. I mean, it's hard to hit a baseball. They can't fix that. It's still up to the player. So, I mean, they give them some information and a lot of data, but it's definitely up to the player. So, I mean, I don't put much of this on Driveline. It's just like any other player hitting talking to their hitting coach. That's just kind of a scapegoat too. But who am I? I mean, I just don't think that they should be, the number one reason. But you are right. Both of those players have struggled mightily. And you said Ty. Yeah, I would almost take it back all the way since he was an All-Star back in 2 years ago at the All-Star break in L.A. Ever since then, he just has not been the same kind of player that is produced.
Yeah, and I want to go back to when I think about Ty France, like prime Ty France. I think going back to 2022, specifically Oakland A's series, what was it, in June of that year? There was the ball that was thrown a little bit up the line. They got their arms tangled up. That was an injury that, kind of derailed him of like being a complete shoo-in or an all-star. He ended up, getting on the all-star team. I think he was a late ad was played right down here in LA. And there was a little bit of campaigning for him because, he when he came back after that injury, which I believe he came back really quick, like 7 to 10 days. He's one of these guys that's always played through all the injuries, but it's just never been the same since then. Can you point to that injury and be like, that's why this happened? No, I can't. But I'm just go as far as a timeline. That's when it seems like things just have not been the same. And of course, he's had his good moments and his good streaks and things like that since, but it's never been back to that.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. It sure hasn't. It could it have affected his bat speed? Possibly. Hard to say. I don't know what it is to what it was. Does he look not comfortable at the plate? Absolutely, but maybe there is something to it. But as far as timing, you're right. It is about those times are the same.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm just gonna pull something up here from what is this? Just MLB trade rumors or whatever. It's all the same stuff. But just to be clear, the Mariners have placed first baseman Ty France on outright waivers, according to Ryan Divish of Seattle Time. France remains on the club's 40-man roster and can still play for the Mariners while on waivers until or unless he's claimed. Should France clear waivers, the Mariners would then be able to outright or release him. Though it's worth noting that France has enough service time to reject an outright assignment in favor of free agency, and Seattle could simply opt to retain France on their roster afterwards. Can you explain this a little more simply, like if people don't that are listening that might not understand what that means?
I didn't really have time to look into it, but my understanding is if he is outrighted and declines that, I I'm going to say this with a caveat of not actually knowing that, but I think I read something saying that he has to go to Tacoma if he wants to keep the remaining 2.5 million of his salary. That's my understanding. I didn't get a chance to look at all this.
Yeah, I believe that's what it means. Meaning like, hey, if you want to make the rest of this, what's left of the what is it, 6 million and some change of, I believe it's less than that now, but I believe that's what his contract was this year. If you want to make the rest of that money, you head to Tacoma. If not, then uh, you're just pretty much a free agent, right? Is that? I think that's what it is. But
So the way I understand it is he could opt out, like it said, but he wouldn't get that money because, yeah, he would be a free agent, but most people would think that he would go, so he would retain that 2.5 million. That's how I understand it. I don't know. I can look it up real quick.
while you're looking that up, I just wanted to mention that I think it's interesting that Ty France was the first person out of this group to get waived. Um, I mean, collectively, there's the refuse to lose Mariners. We've coined them the refuse to hit Mariners here on this podcast a little bit. If you were to go back a couple of weeks ago and tell me he was going to be here and Polanco was going to be, I mean, he was going to be gone and Polanco would still be here, or um, maybe even Dom Canzone. I know that I shouldn't use him as an example because he's young and he has a lot of options. But even a Mitch Haniger, I know that they owe Mitch Haniger for next year. It's guaranteed, but it's quite a chain of events. I know he wasn't in the lineup here on the last game in the Astros, and then he came in against the Astros, and he came in when Julio was injured, and then I believe rolled into a double play. But yeah, if we're just talking about what Ty France, I think in the last month, Ty France has what hit like one. Let's pull this up. 164, I believe, in the last 30 days. Um, that's rough from a guy that was, we thought, going back to 2 years ago, a perennial 300 hitter. He's one of Tony Gwynn's last guys. And you just associate good hitting with Ty France, and I just want to be clear: 163 in the last 30 games. In the last 15 games, 180 and 143 in the last 7 games. It's quite a fall from offensive grace, and personally rough. I mean, he got married last year, had his kid, just turned 30 last week, Cano. So
Yeah, I mean, on the human side of it, definitely anybody that gets rejected, whether they lose their job, at Dick's Drive-In or whatever, or and that you got to feel for them. I get the other angle where someone says, "Oh, they make 6.75 million." They can deal with it, but on a human element, I mean, it's a blow. So I understand that, and that's too bad for him. But professional baseball is a game of producing, and they know that too. And so it is what it is. He probably knew something was coming anyway. I don't think he was blindsided by this personally.
yeah, it's to me them doing this, meaning they probably shopped him around to see if there was somewhere they could move him, check the market on him, couldn't find anybody, and this is why you make that move. You would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's just I'm just shocked the Mariners would actually do it. I mean, like I get it when you look at everything. Like I said, you've earned that. You've earned what's going on, and we talked about the Mariners not having a commitment to winning and things like that, and making bold moves. This is a bold move in my estimation, and I'm wondering what the next one could possibly be.
Well, you mentioned Haniger. That would be the next one if they did something like that with him. That would be a bold move in my estimation because this is still losing money if he doesn't get picked up and paying for a guy, let's say in the minors, 2.5 million, playing in the minors, and we saw what the Mariners and ownership did last year of wanting to um, not just have stale money on the books with Robbie Ray, guys hurt like that, but with Mitch Haniger, I mean that what 17 million he'd be owed to eat that. That would be a bold move by this ownership, by the way they operate.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I agree with that. And Locklear gets called back up. I don't know if that's going to be the final answer, right? For the season as far as first base. I know we saw some good flashes at him, but such a small sample size from this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he came up, had a lot of strikeouts, fit right in with the club, but they wanted him to improve on that. And I was reading that he has not struck out as much down in Tacoma, so that's a good thing. So he, something they wanted him to work on. They've seen that, and with how little production they get out of first base, I mean, I think that it's a great opportunity for him, and excited to see what he can do.
Yeah. Another thought was Chris Copacino said a precursor to Guerrero? Question mark.
Yeah, definitely. Anything's possible.
I would be open to that. Of course. Let's see what we have here from Y2K. France has been one of the worst 5 hitters in the AL since May, I believe, in WAR. He also sucks at D. I don't think he sucks at D.
He doesn't have much range at times, but he can pick it from the bad throws. That's what I would say, in my opinion.
And another continuation. I heard he just hit the 5-year mark, so now he can reject the money. Yeah, we've covered all that. So, he goes.
Oh, and he'd keep the money. If this was like 10 days ago, he would have had to accept it. Okay, good.
Okay, so you're saying. So we're reading here. Listener saying, I heard he just hit a 5-year mark, so now he can reject it and keep his money. If this was like 10 days ago, he would have had to accept it. I could be wrong though. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. We got a bunch of comments from a lot of our regular contributors. Copacino also said, yes, but this was time, a good dude, but needs so much more from a first baseman. Offensively,
Absolutely.
I agree. Chris CJ Jensen, he said the best double play hitter we've seen. Not sure what it does for us, but I'm good with seeing fresh blood. The Ty train is over. Also, one of the least valuable players in the American League since May 1st. Okay, so negative 0.1 WAR, 218, and a 678 OPS. Can't have that. Might point to an incoming trade for first base? Question mark. That seems to be kind of like the storyline here for the hopeless romantic trade deadline people. We also have Ma Baker hit us. She goes, "Why is Ty France taking the fall for all the other shitty Mariners that don't have any offense? Putting him on waivers is kind of risky too. I mean, if nobody takes him, then are we stuck with his contract, right? I'm just so pissed with the Chistros. I'm talking about the Astros. Thank God at least we didn't get swept. Yes, the Mariners are still sweepless in Seattle this season, for sure. Let's see, we have Adam Resendez. Okay, it's a good move. We are in the beginning of the stages of a playoff battle with Houston, and if we are going to show the league that we are serious about a playoff run, then we need to cut ties with players who can't produce. Now is not the time to work on slumps and quote hope they just get back to form. We need players who can produce right away, and if they're not, and we can. And if they're not, and we can afford to cut ties with them and allow them to, as a fresh start as well, it's good for both team and player.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
We also have Jim Copacino. Wow, let the Tyler Locklear era begin. We also have Michael Smith. Wow, a man taught by Tony Gwynn, occasionally flashed the same aptitude for hitting. Beloved by his teammates and city, given his struggles, being put on waivers seems like a painful but necessary step.
Well, think about this since you mentioned that. Think about the Dipoto trade to get all those guys: Munoz, France, Trammell, and what's the catcher's name? What the hell's his name?
Oh, oh, damn it! You forgot
Louis.
his.
Brain fart. Who is it?
I can't believe we forgot that we're getting old, man. Uh,
Anyway, three of those four guys are gone, and everybody was talking about how we fleeced the Padres at that time, but it has sure not turned out that good. But do have an all-star closer and a stud in Munoz.
it was. I just remembered his name when you were talking right now. It does start with L. Somebody that's listening or watching, please. Oh, no, it's not Montero. Anyways, it's gonna drive me nuts. I don't even know if I can do the rest of the show. Mariners catch. Okay. What else do we have here? Over here on the Instagram side, we have Go Seattle Mariners. Jack Johnson, absolutely. Interesting day to say the least. That's from your boy Lauren Stewart up there in Canada.
Thanks for
Yeah,
listening, bud.
yeah. Yes, we got to talk some wrestling soon, Lauren. We also have B White says. Oh, here we go. I can put this one up on the screen. Lamont Wade Jr. time. Oh, and he gave us the answer.
Yeah,
Luis
Luis
Torrens.
Torrens. Yeah,
How could we forget? We only had him about 10 times. Thanks, B White. Let's see. We got another question. I'll save that one until we talk a little bit about Julio. Yeah, but as far as Ty France, it's this is the first of the. I know he's not. When we think about the core, we've kind of changed that language to the young pitchers, Julio, Cal, right, and and Munoz out in the bullpen and guys like that. We call that the core, but these are the guys that were kind of like the foundation of this turn. When you think about Ty, you think about JP. Both of those guys struggling this year. It is sad in that way of this seeming to be the end of the Ty France era.
yeah. I mean, maybe Ty would still be around if I was thinking about this if the organization had picked up some better players and done some better moves. But with everybody struggling, a lot of players struggling throughout that lineup, you got to change something up, and you can't change everything up. So the guy who's struggling the most has got to go. So it's I don't know. I can look back to a lot of things, years of not doing anything in the off season. This ownership or baseball ops has been in control for what 8-9 years with one playoff time being in the playoffs. So I mean, I don't know. There's blame to go around everywhere, in my opinion.
I just saw something interesting though about Ty France. I just want to say a couple of things. So let's have a little bit of levity. Our podcast, we like to have fun. It's the Dive Bar podcast, right? We're not breaking news to you. We're reacting as fans and having a good time. I just saw this on Twitter. I'll try to pull it up on here. I thought this. They said no matter what happens to Ty France, he'll always have this graphic, and it's Ty France. If you're just listening, 90 hit by pitches. That is that a record that is going to stay? Do you think any other Mariner? He eclipsed Edgar Martinez, who
Yeah,
was with us for 900 years. But will another player top this?
probably not.
So he will always go down in history. And listen, you can't take his 2022 All-Star appearance away from him. But also, that's a jersey. Here's the thing about Ty France. If you think about it, he's one of the players that they sell a lot of his jerseys. There's a lot of 23s going around, whether it's at T-Mobile Park or on the road. In fact, I saw the entire Ty France fan club here in Anaheim. They always go to the Anaheim games, maybe the San Diego games, because he went to high school down here. I believe he went to West Covina. So I mean, there's. I guess what I'm saying is there's going to be some jerseys on clearance pretty soon. But before we move on from Ty France, we did have one other person that wanted to say something, and that's our favorite. My 93-year-old grandma Norma called up. Because we were going to do this. We got our times mixed up, but I took her phone call anyways. And we'll listen to that, and then we'll go to break, and then we'll talk about the Julio injury.
Hello.
Hey, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about Ty France getting released or put on waivers?
I know. Your mom and I were really surprised. But we were talking about it. We thought it was because every time he gets up, if there's two on, he knocks in the infield and they're out.
Yeah, or he gets in a double play.
Yeah, that's what I mean, double play.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he seemed to be a good first baseman.
Yeah, he played good defense. I just remember you used to always say you couldn't stand that he always seemed like he wanted to fix his hair all the time.
Oh, he did. He used to do that all the time. I think it's before he got married. He used to get on base and take his hat off, fix his hair.
Yeah.
He might have been married then, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think he got married last year and they just had a kid, but the Mariners want to move on and get some more stable offense in here.
What do you think of what's wrong with Julio?
Well, he seemed like he was heating up there, but he ran into the wall today. You saw that, didn't you?
Well, when he hit that wall, is it his leg or knee or foot or hand or?
It was his ankle, but they say that as of right now, it's day to day. They have to take a look at it, but it's not as serious as they thought.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Not as serious as they thought.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Your mom and I watched part of it, then we couldn't stand at the end, so we turned the station and went back to see who won because we figured maybe they were going to lose.
Oh.
And then I can't stand that guy Sting. They ought to move him right along with Ty.
Oh, Stanek? Well, he got overused a little bit. So I know that you like to call him Stink, but his name is Stanek.
I know, but he's Sting.
Yeah.
You have to get on the bus and get out of town.
All right. Well, I just wanted to check in with you.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so that was Norma chiming in there. She's always got some rough stuff to say. But yeah, it's the France section, the baguette, number 23. It seems like it's over. I'm sure this won't be the last time we talk about it. And I just moving on from this. Probably not going to be the last moves of these, but we've seen Polanco, who you'd think was a top candidate for something like this. We've seen him heat up here, or like slowly heat up. Gets a big home run here today, a nice, the quality home run. But yeah, I would say probably Haniger, somebody that would be a tough one that maybe we might see.
Yeah, I definitely agree with possibly Haniger. Like I said, I worry about that because of his salary, they might not do it. But it could be. I agree with you on Polanco. He's playing better. I feel like Polanco, out of those three, including Ty, has a better track record and has never really had this big of slump. So I could see that them giving him a little longer leash. Sure, they've given him a long leash with this whole first half of the season, but like I said, there's improvements. So hopefully that continues. But yeah, it'll be very interesting. Lots of problems throughout the whole Mariner lineup, that's for sure. As far as hitting,
Yes.
I mean, that series was tough. I mean, still seeing 3 hits a game, in that second game, it's just pathetic.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the first game was again about as frustrating as it gets as for a Mariners loss. Then the next game, you still don't manufacture a run. You get Julio's big 2-run shot. That was a moon shot. It was right there into Edgar's. But unfortunately, Stanek gives up that the bomb the next inning. But the thing is, the Mariners can't. The frustrating thing is, then the Mariners can't counter that. That's what the problem is. Today, here at the time of the recording, Sunday's game though, they did. They walked into that big 3-run shot. They manufactured runs. They had guys on base. Speaking of a guy, I just wanted to give a little shout out because we've texted about it. Victor Robles, another guy that's taking an opportunity. If you want to look at somebody like Ty France, who might be showing up somewhere else. I mean, look what Victor Robles is doing. I think he was hitting like a buck 20, on the season. Now he's hitting 278. He's hit just about 400 since he's been here on the Mariners. Also brings that he's a World Series champion. Our other World Series champion on the team. We have two other World Series champions on the team, right? I believe Stanek and Garver. Garver's hitting 170, but Robles is doing things. And there's a guy I used to say a couple years ago. What was it? The 2018 guy, the guy that used to kind of go under the radar that did really well for us, Denard Span. I'm giving him the Denard Span slash maybe could be the Carlos Santana of the team this season.
Yeah, how I feel about Denard Span and thinking about,
I've
that
got
we're
the numbers.
excited about Victor Robles. I mean, it says what's, about this Mariner team. I mean, come on, you know.
Uh,
I mean, sure, it's good he's coming around, but that's just my opinion about him.
yeah, I think he's outplayed Haniger right now. I think he's outplayed Canzone. I know Canzone's injured. That he was supposed to come back Saturday. It seems like he's not going to be back for a while. Um, I'm okay with that. I don't. It's not. That's nobody I'm really missing. We were gonna do a trade deadline episode, which we're gonna do this week. We had a list. You had some outfielders on there. Definitely, probably still looking for an outfielder, and you might even need to press that button even more with the Julio injury. I know as of right now, what is it? A mild sprain to that ankle.
Yeah, that's I heard X-rays were so that's a good thing. But sprains sometimes are pretty painful and take a while to get through. Outstanding attempt by Julio. Almost made an unbelievable catch, but you could see where his ankle kind of hyperextended against the wall there. So it's hard to say. They say day to day, but those guys get treatment all day, every day. So hopefully something where we can maybe take it easy against the Angels with them coming to town. But yeah, if it's any worse, you could see it makes sense to go out and get a big time center fielder, to help out if
Yeah,
it's anything longer.
yeah. We have another comment here. It's the stack pack Matt adventures. With Julio going down, do you think the Mariners will be working harder to get outfield? That's what we were just talking about. Yeah, maybe Robert Luis. Yes, Luis Jr. is all. That's on our Christmas list, right? That's like a that's I open the back and I go, oh, what do you want? And I've decided, and I've had these conversations with other people. I've decided I am not on the conservative side when it comes to the Mariners this season. As far as holding on to things, I'm definitely one of those people. It's like press the button, let's get somebody uh, big in here.
Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome, even if Julio wasn't hurt to get him.
Yeah.
Does it make more sense? Who was the player that they were talking about that the Mariners were rumored to in Miami again? Center fielder.
Jazz Chisholm Jr.
Yeah,
We
does
just
it make more sense to go get a Jazz Chisholm even more now since Julio's hurt? He plays center. Maybe that really ignites the deal to come along. I mean, he'd be a lot less as far as player acquisition that the Mariners would have to give up to get a center fielder. So that's an option too.
Yeah, I think like if you had a pros and cons list, you now on that move maybe. I'm trying to think of the other outfielder that kind of reminds me of a Teo Hernandez type outfielder. It's slipping my mind on Miami. There was rumors. We got this
Oh
from
yeah,
we got
De
this
La
from the
Cruz.
De La Cruz. That's another guy. Yeah, we're gonna do a whole episode just on that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna definitely do that this week. The Ty France thing obviously kind of threw us for a spin here. Yeah, as far as this weekend, yes. Here's the plus side of it though, Hannah. I'm glad that again we come out of the break and we
Lose the series.
yeah, good things usually follow after that. Like if we're gonna keep doing this, you're like, okay, it's typical. But I'm also I'm glad that they could play the Astros right now because when I look at the Astros, they ain't going anywhere. It doesn't matter if they have AJ Hinch, whether it's Dusty Baker's. I don't even know who the hell their manager is right now. I don't even think they need one. Is it Altuve? At this point, they're just so good. And you have Alvarez getting a cycle, of course. I mean, of course, him hitting the ball and Julio just about. I mean, Julio makes that catch if he doesn't come down with all that pain. He just like released the ball. You see Altuve with the key hits. Bergman's part of the thing. And let's not forget, they're getting Tucker. Kyle Tucker's coming back at some point. And I mean, that guy was, the MVP type playing earlier on in the season. So you're getting to see like, okay, this is a scary fucking team. And they're not going anywhere. And their pitching has seemed to turn around, which everybody goes, they got no pitching. Well, it's kind of hard to scale. Is their pitching as good as we saw this weekend, or is it just the Mariners' bat? So that's always a tough question. But yeah, the Astros and the Mariners locking up this week, I feel like it's great. You get to, if you had this series after the deadline and we don't have the moves that we still could make, then I think it's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not convinced that we're going to make many moves at the break or at the deadline. They sure need to, but I'm excited over the next 10 days for the end of the month to hear what we could possibly do. That's my favorite part of the year is seeing what the Mariners do, and then they can let me down and I can be pissed again.
World of Unicycle says, I hate to see this news. Ty had such a quality bat. Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah, it's if you'd have told me this is what was going to happen 2 years ago, no way. And even at the beginning of the season, I thought maybe he turned it around. I think if you might be having the same conversation about somebody like JP Crawford if you weren't in the middle of a $50 million contract.
Well, if you had somebody to replace him, or they don't have anybody.
Yeah, that's what's going on. I do think we're going to see an overhaul. I feel like there are going to be some moves being made. Are they going to be the ones that we want? I don't know. But I know you got to run here in the next 5 minutes. So I just wanted to point out one of the things that we like to do here on this podcast um, is we always like to take a little bit look back at T-Mobile Park slash Kingdom slash Safeco Field this weekend. As you see our background here, this is a picture from, I believe, opening night or opening weekend of when T-Mobile Park opened up as Safeco Field 25 years ago. Friday night, Jamie Moyer throwing out the first pitch to Dan Wilson. I think I mentioned this. I don't think he's lost anything off his fastball. How about you, Hannah?
Yeah, no, that was really cool that they did that. Speaking of that, have you heard anything? Is Blowers just on an extra long vacation, or is he having something going on again? He hasn't been on the broadcast before the break and now after. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything, but I've enjoyed Dan Wilson too.
Yeah, he's great.
He is awesome. I had Sims and Rico on the radio for a while, and then I switched over, and I had to keep listening to Dan Wilson. I really love his insight, and he works with these current players quite a bit. You know, you go down to spring training, he's there, he's working, he's doing stuff down in the minors. So that's what I like about him, is he's even got that more inside track on what's going on. And then
getting back to where you said you think they're going to make some moves, do you think it's because they have to, or do you also think because Scott is on the last year of his contract, but more importantly, so is, I believe, Jerry and Justin, that they feel that they have to make moves because they could be replaced?
I will give you the answer to that following this.
Supercross this weekend in the Kingdom. The Coors Beer Supercross doubleheader. Get ready, Seattle, this Saturday night at 7:30 and Sunday afternoon at 2. The 1988 AMA Supercross Tour, Motorcycle Mania, on an incredible dirt battleground that treats man and machine the same way. With absolutely no respect. See the best. National champion Jeff Ward, former champion Ricky Johnson. Tickets at all Ticketmaster locations, including the Bond, Tower Records and Video, and participating Honda dealers. The Coors Beer Supercross.
Outside of the Luke Raley, outside of that, and outside of Stanek, which has nothing to do with the offense, the offseason was a failure. The whole philosophy of the offseason failed again. It failed last year. The only thing in 2022 to 2023 that worked out in the offseason was Teoscar Hernandez, who's no longer here.
Everybody and now we're going after a bat like that at the trade deadline, which is just blows my mind.
Yes, and this year's philosophy was less strikeouts, and you got more, historically more.
I keep thinking about Dipoto. I mean, obviously he's a great GM, great mind. He's very pitcher focused, if that makes sense. And it feels like, I don't know if he needs help from someone who's more offensive minded or like is great with giving bats. But I mean, from a free agent trade perspective, I mean, you look at Mitch Garver, like he's not doing much. And on the Polanco thing, like he's Polanco, but you almost think you'd want Bliss out there every day the way that he's been hitting.
Yeah. So that's just a little prelude to my answer. I do feel like maybe both of these guys are feeling the pressure. It doesn't matter who you draft and what you get and what you build. This is not your organization. I mean, we could look at somebody like Buck Showalter comes to mind. Lots of managers and general managers build teams and they don't really get to finish the job. You can look at the Golden State Warriors, things in other sports as well. I do feel like, look, Scott, this is his 9th season as a Mariners manager. What was Lou Piniella, 10, 11? And then you look at, Lou Piniella had, Hall of Fame players, but he also wasn't just some random coach that earned that. They brought him over after winning a World Series. So he earned the right to be able to manage all of this talent. But you look at Scott Servais, you got one playoff appearance. You look at Lou in all those years, and you got two ALCS, 4 total playoff appearances, and comparing the two isn't the same. But also, if the Mariners cannot return to the playoffs and you have 2 years in a row after making the playoffs, I mean, anywhere else in baseball, you're probably gone, I would
Yeah.
assume. And so I think there is maybe some of this pressure that you're right that we are seeing. Maybe we are going to see some more aggressive moves, uh, and yeah, obviously it's a the way they do everything, whether it's putting Robbie Ray in there in the ninth inning in the playoffs. It's a group mind, right? That they say that they make all these decisions. So even with Ty France, everybody pretty much had to sign off on this, or they got outvoted on this, or whatever. So I do feel like, yeah, maybe we are going to start seeing those things. And I know Scott's a players manager. He's out there walking around in the field, like Jim Leland, they were mentioning. That's where he got that from, who just got put in the Hall of Fame today with, of course, Adrian Beltre, one of our favorite third basemen. But yeah, I do feel that there is that pressure of like going, they got to know. At least Scott, I think for if it between Scott and Jerry, I think Scott is definitely on the hot seat, even though he can't go up there and make these at bats. But um, there are some managing moves that he makes that are kind of weird, and they get a little bit highlighted when your team's not hitting too. So I don't know. What do you got to say for your final thought on that?
Yeah, I would I agree with what you said. Stuff rolls downhill and usually starts with a manager, so that makes sense to me that he would be the one to go first. It'd just be interesting to me because I think of Stanton, the ownership, really liking what Dipoto and them have done, but also them not doing enough, and as far as trying to work in his landscape, as far as how much money he allows them and what they can do. I mean, he's put on a decent product, around the 500 mark, and they've been in the hunt these last 3 years, but they're not ever in a point where they can get over the hump and get in the playoffs and make some damage. And he's making them a ton of money. Or the ownership, this stadium's packed all weekend. It'll be packed for most of the year, and it has been the last few years with us being right on the cusp of being in a playoff chance. So that's how I feel that the ownership thinks. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and last two questions that we have here from people, and we'll wrap this up.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody was mentioning about when we were talking about JP. Again, Cole Young is still waiting in the shadows, possibly the next shortstop next year. Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
you know what I heard actually. I'm glad he brought that up. When I was basically talking about there's nobody available, I was talking about this year. But yeah, that is a possibility. And funny thing is, Hollander was on sports radio last week, and they asked him about Cole Young, and at least this is his comment. He goes, "I'm not gonna say that he's not gonna be, but I still feel like he's a year or so more away from being ready." So that was just what the GM said. So I didn't think about Cole Young, but yeah, he's there. It's definitely a possibility.
and the other one that we jumped over that somebody had here was they brought up Lamont Wade Jr. Who's on the San Francisco Giants. I think we were talking about first base. I don't know too much about him, but when you look at his stats, you're like, yeah, you look at a first baseman and you go,
He's really
those are
good.
some, yeah, the power isn't there, but this guy gets what's OPS 839. You can see that right there on the screen. Yeah, definitely affordable. Also the guy, outfielder, we'll talk about him on the other show down in Oakland. In fact, just so that we kind of have a hang on for or hang on, I mean a little cliffhanger for our next episode. Uh, this weekend, or this week, I should say, Hannah wants you to keep an eye on an old friend of the Mariners, an old Tyler Anderson, and the other one is Renhefo. Those are the two guys that you are interested in here on the Angels on your list of players, which you also have Rooker, Miller, Thomas from Washington, Brian Reynolds, somebody I I don't even want to get into that. Walker, the catcher in Arizona, obviously because of our backup catcher situation, and then of course Randy Arozarena. Those are some of your guys of focus that we're gonna focus on an episode this week.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to run, but thanks for everybody for liking, subscribing, and checking us out. Again, if you want to be down with the rye bread, you want that street cred, hit up at simply.core to get your rye bread and mustard gear. And yeah, we'll be back this week. We're going to kind of change our programming, right, Hannah, for the next week or two. Instead of breaking down games and baseball when we're going to talk about the trade deadline, because that has been this is what the season's about since the beginning of the year. So we're right here. We're going to be bringing that to you. With that being said, Hannah, you know what time it is. Charge. Au revoir. Hi, friends.